Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's the 10th of September 2025. It's just after 10 o'clock in the morning. My name's Jenny McCormac. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator and I'm based in the market town of Brackley, which is in Northamptonshire, and that's here in the UK. Today we are, as usual, on a Wednesday morning featuring either an online exclusive product or a new kit. I have just ordered the new kits, so I'll be able to show you one of those next week. In the meantime, I've got Jar of Joy, which is from our online exclusives, and all this means is these are items that Stampin' Up are able to add to their selection. They're just not in a printed catalogue. They're only available to see online. You can order them directly online, or you can order them through me in the usual way if you place orders with me directly. It's called, as you can see, Jar of Joy, and it features the same jar that comes in the Jar of Sweetness, or the Sweet Jar. I'm trying to think of its actual name, and it has a coordinating punch. So the previous stamp set had a jar that had sweets and clover and cookies, and this uses that same outline image, but it has 3 different scenes. So we have the little gingerbread man with the cookies behind. We have 3 little baubles, and then we have the snowman. And it's the snowman I'm going to be using today. Let me lift that up. I've had to put my lights on because it's such a dull morning. Complete change in the weather. So I'm no longer trying to avoid the sun coming through. I'm trying to get the light on the subject. So as well as those images, we have some little dots of snow. We have the scarf and the hat wrap. That's one stamp. We have a little bow, and then we have 3 sentiments. May your heart be filled with joy, sending a jar full of cheer, and wishing you the sweetest Christmas. The punch will punch out the jar and the lid. I'm actually going to stamp the jar and the scene and punch it out, and then I'm actually going to use some of our new glimmer paper to punch out the lid. Morning, Caroline. I'm impressed. So I've got some scrap pieces of paper for stamping on. The colours that I'm going to use I haven't actually finally decided, but I've got a range of blues as I'm doing the snowman. So I've got Balmy Blue, Misty Moonlight and Secret Sea. I've got a little bit of light blue, so light balmy and dark balmy blue, just to add a little bit of colour underneath the snowman where the snow is. And for my jar lid, I'm going to use some of this lovely glimmer paper. So this is our new Peaceful Garden glimmer paper that coordinates with the Peaceful Garden suite. And this has this lovely mid blue. It also has like a really deep Secret Sea and a silver, but I'm going to go for this not silver, sort of a green silver green, and then I'm going to be using a white base card. I've got a background piece of Balmy Blue, and I'm going to stamp that with some snowflakes. Now unfortunately there aren't any snowflakes on here, so I'm going to borrow the little snowflakes here from the Snowy Delights stamp set, just for my background. I might add a little strip of this blue as well, and I'm going to mount this archway from the Everyday Arches and add my sentiment here at the top. And what I might do is split that sentiment, so sending a jar full of cheer I might do sending a jar and then full of cheer underneath, so I'll show you how to do that. Or I could use wishing you the sweetest Christmas. That fits really nicely in the jar itself. It's got a little bit of an angle here for the base of the jar. So let's get cracking. Let's start with the stamping. So when I'm looking for those, they're all over on the right hand side of my desk. So I have some offcuts of some basic white cards. So this is our card perfect for stamping. Let's grab the jar and the little snowman, and then the snowman's hat and scarf infill, and I've also got some little dots of snow, and I'll leave the sentiment in there excuse me for a minute, I've gone all croaky. I'm not sure if I'm going to use Misty Moonlight or Secret Sea for my stamping. Let's give it a go. So I'm going to stamp this first and then pop my snowman in my jar. Let's see what it looks like with Misty Moonlight. Okay, so there's my base. Let's pop this back in so I don't lose it. Okay, now I've got my little snowman, and he's going to go across just a little way up, I think, so I've got space for the snow underneath. I know you can't see much of that at the minute. I'll stamp him again in Misty Moonlight. Just looking to see if he's that's a little bit of an angle or not. Morning, Isabel. Thanks for joining us this morning. I hope you're well. So there's our little snowman, and then we've got an infill here that fills the scarf, because when I first looked at it I thought, oh, the poor snowman needs to be connected together, but that's because this little stamp here, I appreciate you probably can't see it particularly well, has got the scarf and an infill for the hat. So my thought is I'm going to stamp that in balmy blue. Just as a little contrast. So say this is from our online exclusives. Let's have a little practice of this, so you can see what I'm trying to stamp out. So there's the little scarf detail, goes in there, and then this little piece here fits in the hat. Might need to take my glasses off though. You could obviously do this in a bright contrasting colour. I've gone for blues right across the board here. Hope I've got that in the right place. Yeah. So there we go. Just going to add a little bit of blue across there with my blends pen. For my snow. So this is light balmy blue. Like so. Right, so there's my little snowman in the jar. So I'm going to pop that in. And remember, when you're stamping ready to punch out, do give yourself a little bit of space around the edges and see which way it's going to go into the punch, and that way you can just make your life a little bit easier. You don't want to get too close to the bottom. You don't want it to get too close to the edges of the punch and stick in your punch. So I'm just using my right hand to grasp that piece of card when I've got it in line. Yes. So there's my little snowman in the jar, and then this is some of that glimmer paper. So I'm just going to punch out the top, and that's going to go onto there. Okay, let's look at the background pieces. So I'm going to put snowflakes on here. As I said, I'm going to sneak from one from the Snowy Delights stamp set. Get that one out. And this is just going to go on my background. Put those together. I've got some snow here as well, let's not lose that. Let's grab a... Oh, look, how fun is that? That jar was one we were doing, the original one with the cookies and the hearts. A little treat for you. How funny is that? Okay, put that to one side. So I'm going to put snowflakes all the way over here. I might add a strip of that glimmer paper as well to tie that in together. I'll see if it needs it. So I've got the Misty Moonlight again. And I'm just going to do this, turning it around all the way over here. It's a nice set of snowflakes actually. So working my way around, turning it so I've got different elements. You haven't just got the repetition. You want it to look what's the word? Natural, but I can't think of the word this morning. Not sort of symmetrical, just sort of, yes, like that. Now, am I going to do this all the way over? Let's have a look, see. So my plan is to put this piece on. So what I might do is add my strip and stop the snow at that point. I think that's what I'm going to do. Let's put that up in there. And in fact, after this point I don't need to do the middle because I know that's going to be covered up. Right. Let's trim a little bit of this piece to put in. This is lovely, this glimmer paper. Oh, I might be lucky and get it out of that little piece at the bottom. And I recommend when you're cutting glimmer paper or anything that's got a rough surface, is when you put it through your trimmer, is cut it from the back. And then you're being a bit kinder to your blade. So I want to make sure that this is going to fit. Stroke of luck, I can assure you. That was pure luck. So let's make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to go 1.5 centimeters, I think. So my plan is to put that in there somewhere, and then this piece is going to go on the top like that, and then my little jar is going to go here. So that feels actually a little bit too big. Let me just see if it would be better with a narrower piece. Too narrow. Or should I do the stamping right the way down? That's the question. Okay, let me know if you think I should stamp all of that in the background. Okay, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this on here. I'm going to add the tiny little bit of snow, and I'm going to add the sentiment. So what I wanted to show you was how to split that sentiment. I'm hoping it's going to fit. Sending a jar full of cheer. I'm not going to cut it. And if I was doing a lot of this particular design, I probably would cut that stamp. But what I'm going to do is just ink up half of it. Caroline says all the way down. Okay. So what I'm going to do is sending a jar first, and then my full of cheer underneath. Let's try it and see. And I know I've got plenty of space at the top. Send it in a jar. And one thing I got ready was my cloth cleaner, which I've now left in the kitchen. I've just got a slightly dry one here. I just want to make sure that my sending a jar piece is fully clean and dry. Okay, and now I'm going to do full of cheer underneath. And I'm just trying to get that centralised by eye. There we go. So sending a jar full of cheer. So where you've got a long sentiment, it is really easy, especially when they're photopolymer, to just ink up part that you want. And you could also have other things. So you could have sending a jar full, and then you could have other sentiments as well. Okay, I'm going to add some snow to the background of this, and I'm just going to use, I'm not going to do the dark ink, I don't know what that is. Let's flick it off, whatever it was. I'm just going to use Balmy Blue. And in fact, what I might do is a little bit of those snowflakes, but just in Balmy Blue. Let's have a look and see. Yeah. So that fit on there. Okay. Turn that round. like that. And then I don't mind if this goes off the top. There we are. I could make that into a tag, excuse me, punch a hole and put a ribbon through, but I think I've got enough going on. Right, so this is going to go onto here. I am going to add that tiny little bit of snow inside my jar. In the balmy blue. Just very light, like so. Hopefully you can see that detail. Sometimes when I've got the lights on, it washes out the detail. I'm just going to do a light layer of these, like that. Okay, so he's going to go on there. I've got my little lid here. It's going to go on. And then I'm just going to add then more of those snowflakes in Misty Moonlight, as suggested by Caroline. Do them all the way down. So I know the main piece is going to go over the centre. I don't necessarily need to do that, but I do need to do the bottom. So just turning this stamp round to get different elements of those snowflakes. Go. And then one last one in there. Okay, let's have a look. Yep. Okay, so I want to add that strip. I've decided that's too narrow, but that's slightly too big, I think. Have a look for positioning. I mean, I could do it without that strip, to be honest. What do we think? Just going to try making that a little bit smaller. And then that whole thing is going to go onto the card. So here's another tip for you. If I can see some washi tape, which is when you've got a thin piece like this that you want to make even thinner, cut that very edge off. What I would do is, I'm going to turn it over because it's easier on my cutter to not be cutting straight into the glimmer side, is position this on my trimmer base and just put a piece of tape top and bottom to hold it, because this will hold it a fair amount but not always the whole thing. And I'm desperately looking for some washi tape, which I can't see anywhere. Might help if I had my glasses on. Okay, I could also use sellotape on here. Okay, let's just go for it. Because I'm pushing up, it shouldn't move too much. Okay. Of course, we might go without this strip altogether. Okay, let's put the rest of it together and then decide. So I've got a base white card here, which is half an A4, so cut at 14.85, scored at 10.5. Isabel says without strip, yeah, and I have to say I think I'm tempted to agree with you there. I suppose I could have done it at an angle, but yeah, I don't think it adds anything, does it? It cuts it up too much. Okay, so this layer is going to go onto there. We're going to do it without the strip. Let's grab the glue. And also, with the strip, it means we've got two of that piece. And ideally, I would have 3, so another element of that in there somewhere, and I think that's what making it look odd. Okay, there's the postman. Okay, I think I'm going to put that on possibly with dimensionals. Let's put these pieces together. So I'm just going to apply a tiny bit of glue on the back of that and placing it on my little jar. I don't want to take up too much detail from there. Actually, what I might do is put it on the jar. Literally on the very edge. Grab that piece back. And obviously I could have stamped the jar lid and cut that out, but I quite like it with that glimmer paper. Okay. Let's move those out of the way. And in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on flat and then my little jar on with dimensionals. If I was doing multiples of these, I would do all the backing and then I would do all the stamping and punching and this, and then sort of put them together in order. Okay, and then here's my little chappy. You grab some dimensionals. And we're done. And just pop 4 on there. Just take the backings off, and you could add a little bit of bling to this. Either some not an earthquake, I promise. That's chino scratching underneath. There we go. There we are. Finished cards. Yeah, you could add a few little rhinestones, for example, if you wanted to. I think there's plenty going on. You could also use some backing paper rather than stamp it if you wanted to. And I could have swapped out the sentiments as well. So I could have used "Wishing You the Sweetest Christmas" or "May Your Heart Be Filled with Joy" on the front there. But what I did was I just stamped half and half. And there we go, there's our finished card. So sending a jar full of cheer. I think I'm going to pop some snowflakes in that corner, and we're done and dusted. So this is from the online exclusive. The stamp set is £19 for this one here, and then you can buy the punch if you would like. Don't have to. This is a relatively easy to fussy cut. The lid a little bit more fiddly, but you could just cut a little strip for the lid if you wanted to. So I think it would depend on how many you needed to do, really. So let's pop some of these little snowflakes in the corner. And I would also probably put them on the envelope. I'm a bit short of envelopes at the minute, so I'm not going to do one for this at this point in time. So there we go, Jar of Joy. I hope you like it. A little fun stamp set. So we've got the snowman, we've got gingerbread man, and we've got the little baubles, so you could change it up completely, change the colours. You can have a jar with each in, one gingerbread, one baubles and one snowman, and put the whole thing in landscape. But there we go. So thank you for your input. Definitely better without the strip. Doesn't need it at all. I hope you like it. I'll be back tomorrow evening using our stamp set of the week, so we'll be back here at 7 p.m, all being well, for continuing our stamp set of the week, which, although it is a Christmas stamp set, we're doing it as a non-Christmas version. And if you saw my post late last night, I got carried away. I was doing a whole series to add in with catalogues that I'm sending out, and I meant to change the colours for each one, and I just got carried away. Started off changing, and then I did all the rest in Calypso Coral until I actually ran out of ink in my blends pen. So I better add those to my next order. Thank you so much. Do take care. I hope you have a great day ahead. Let me just lift that back up to the screen so you can see it. This will be uploaded to YouTube in due course, so if you're watching from there and you have any queries or questions, don't hesitate to pop those in the comment section. Hope you have a great day, and look after yourselves, and I hope you can keep crafting. Bye for now.